inaugural lecture to be presented by Professor Benson, Kunle Sehinde, and it is the 401 in the series of the inaugural lecture of this great institution. And the title of this lecture is The Rulers, Ruled, Corruption, Leadership, and Consequences for Nation Development. Professor Kunle Sehinde Benson belongs to the family of late Chief Michael Atinuke Benson and Chief Mrs. Benson from Ikoro-Ekiti, Ijeru local government, Ekiti State. Professor Benson is a professor of public administration. He joined the services of the university on the 2nd of October 2008 as a research fellow too, and rose to the position of professor in October 2020. He has supervised 18 research graduates and is a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Local Government and Public Administrators of Nigeria, as well as a fellow of the Nigerian Association for Public Administration and Management. He has over 30 publications in both national and international journal outlets. Professor Benson has served the university in various capacities: a member of the Faculty Board of Administration, the Vice Dean Faculty of Administration, the Acting Head Department of Public Administration, a member of the University Security Committee representing University Congregation, among many others. Professor Benson is happily married with children. I hereby present to you the inaugural lecturer of today, Professor Benson, for him to present his lecture. You are welcome.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, eminent scholars, my lord spirituals and temporal, royal majesties, family, gentlemen of the press, and friends here present, the great students of Obafemi Awolowo University, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I'm grateful to the Almighty God, the most beneficent, the most merciful, the cherisher and sustainer of the universe. I also express my deep appreciation to the authorities of this great university for the privilege to stand before you this evening to present this 8th inaugural lecture from the Department of Public Administration, Faculty of Administration, Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. The previous inaugural lectures differ from the department include the following: Professor Ladipo Adamalekun on administrative powers on the 4th of June, 1981. The second by Professor Bamidele Olowu, Bureaucracy and the People, the Nigerian Experience on 6th of June, year 2000. The third in the series was presented by S. Bamidele Ayo, Rethinking the Study of Nigeria Public Administration on 16th of June, year 2000. The fourth in the series was presented by Professor Machi Olu-Okotoni, Governance Crisis and State Failure in Nigeria. Are we all guilty of March 14, 2017? The fifth was presented by Professor Juliana Makinde, Policy Somersault, Poverty of Policy Implementation and Corruption, Obstacles to Development in Nigeria, on September 12, year 2017. The sixth by Professor Barrister Omaleke Ishak Ishola, Administration, Law, and Politics, the Tripartite Holy Alliance of Good Governance on January 18, year 2018. The seventh in this series was presented by Professor Taiwo Olaiya Kambi, Where the State Falters, to Public Policies Over a Buffer, on October 8, year 2024. An important thing to note about these lectures is that each of the topics has succeeded in addressing cogent issues of the period with very deep theoretical insight and eloquence. The topic of this lecture is the rulers, the ruled, corruption, leadership, and consequences for nations' development. My journey into the academy started on 3rd of March 1998 when I was given admission into the Masters of Public Administration Program, MPA. At the point of registration, my first degree resource was fettered by Professor Bamidele Ayo of blessed memory, and he suggested to my uncle, late Dr. Adewale Rotimi, that I should proceed to apply for the MSc program, adding that I am fit to be an academician. My interest in MPA program then was that it would be an easy avenue to become an institute administrator. However, I finally changed to the MSc program on successful completion of the Masters of Science in Public Administration MSc degree program. I enrolled for the PhD program immediately. On the successful completion of the PhD program, I was employed into the Department of Public Administration as a research fellow 2. I later converted to lecturer grade 2. Today, I give glory to God for this great opportunity to stand before this august audience to deliver this inaugural lecture as a professor of public administration in this great citadel of learning. Nigeria's experience of governance, marked with endemic corruption, poor leadership, and subsequently low level of political, economic, and social development since our independence in year 1960 deserves serious attention. To this end, it is necessary to query the Nigerians' political allies. Why Nigerians have been denied of good governance, good leadership, and a society free from corruption that can drive political, economic, and social development. Part of the responses to this is central to this lecture: the rulers and the ruled. The relationship between the rulers and the ruled forms the basis of political authority and governance in every society. It represents a power dynamics that denies how societies are organized, how decisions are made, and how obedience is obtained. The concept is fundamental to the structure of government, leadership, and social control, and it raises key questions about authority, legitimacy, accountability, participation, and justice. The exercise of power and authority in both the political and economic spheres of life is the essential substance of governance. The rulers are individuals or groups who hold authority or power in a political system. They make laws, enforce rules, allocate resources, and make decisions that affect the general population. Rulers may include presidents, governors, kings, legislators, military leaders, and traditional chiefs, among others. The rules are the general populace or subject over whom the ruler exercises authority. The rules are expected to comply with the rule laws, directives, and policies made by the rulers. They form the majority in the political system and are often at the receiving end of governance. In governance and political theory, the concept of the rulers and the rule refer to the dynamic relationship between those who wield power and the institutional or legal framework that govern the exercise of that power. Note 1990. This framework is critical to understanding how political authority is acquired, maintained, and limited. The below table represents types of rule, the rule types, and the rule models. Figure 1. The figure clearly shows that rulers are greedy and living very well at the expense of the rule with little attention to their well-being. And that is why the rulers are fat and obese, while the ruled are lean and haggard. Corruption. The word corruption may be used to explain acts that means abuse of public office or private gain, Nahida and Akangbe 2013. The prevailing value system of the community, therefore, is the mirror of the expected behavior of its employees. Therefore, The widespread corruption in the public service in Nigeria is a reflection of the decadence, value, or morality of our society. Benson, 2011. The World Bank offers a broader platform to examine the notions of corruption as covering a broad range of human actions. It is the abuse of public office for private gain. Public office is abused for private gain when an officer accepts, solicits, or extorts a bribe. It is also abused when private agents actively offer bribes to circumvent public policies and processes for competitive advantage and profit. Public office can also be abused for personal benefit, even if no bribery occurs, though patronage and nepotism. The theft of state assets or the diversion of state revenues, like most other definitions, it places the public sector at the center of the phenomenon. This should not be taken to mean that corruption cannot occur or that its effects are minor in private sector setting. World Bank, 1999. Section 98 of the Criminal Code of the country refers to it as the receiving or offering of some benefit, rewards, or inducement to sway or deflect a person employed in a public service from the honest and impartial discharge of his duties. Section 104 of the same criminal code, Section 115 and 116 of the penal code, the corrupt practices and other related offenses Act 2000, Money Laundering Prohibition Act 2004, and the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission Act 2004. Further highlight corruption as an offense. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, the magnitude of corruption in the country can be placed in a broader perspective when viewed from the periodic ranking of Transparency International. Nigeria, one of the most populous nations in the world, has been at different times ranked high in corruption by Transparency International and other organizations. In year 2000, Transparency Organization carried out a survey on the corruption level of 90 countries. Nigeria was found as the most corrupt in that ranking, while in year 2001, it slightly improved to occupy the second position in the world out of 91 countries that were surveyed. There seemed to be an improvement in year 2015, when Nigeria ranked 36 out of 168 countries surveyed, meaning that it was the 32nd most corrupt country in the world, Okutoni 2017. These trends of corruption in Nigeria has become hereditary from one government to the other. Leaders were seen as the most nationalistic and sacrosanct in their dealings with public affairs. Benson, 2011, Benson and Okeke, 2010, Omaleke, Benson and Nephew, 2017. Benson case, Benson and Odewale, 2017. The mechanism put in place to curb this menace have originally been unable to deter people from engagement in it. Some cases of corruption in Nigeria's democratic era often go unpunished due to various factors, including lack of transparency, inadequate laws, and corrupt officers protecting each other. Here are some notable high-profile cases. $2.2 billion was illegally withdrawn from the SS crude oil account. A significant portion of this amount, $1 billion, allegedly used to fund President Goodluck Jonathan's re-election campaign without the knowledge of the National Economic Council. 628 million naira house revocation scam. This involved Patricia Olubunmi Foluke Ete, the first female Speaker of the House of Representatives, who was eventually forced to relinquish her position. Private enrichment. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo was accused of using public funds for personal gain, including the Transcorp share scandal and pressurizing associates to donate to his presidential library. Despite being found guilty of corruption, some high-profile individuals like Atiku Abubakar were allowed to contest election without facing prosecution, among others. Origin of corruption and leadership succession in Nigeria. Historically, the origin of corruption in Nigeria predates the colonial era. According to a colonial government report of GCR of 1947, The African's background and outlook on public morality is very different from that of the present-day Briton. The First Republic, under the leadership of Sir Abubakar Balewa, the Prime Minister, and Nnamdi Azikiwe, the President, was marked by widespread corruption. Government officials looted public funds with impunity. Federal representatives and ministers flaunted their wealth with recklessness. In fact, it appeared there were no men of good character in the political leadership of the First Republic. Politically, the thinking of the First Republic Nigeria leader class was based on politics for material gain, money, and living well. Figure 2. This figure represents anti-corruption march to call the attention of Murtala Buhari's government to the menace of corruption in the country. The failure of General Ironsi to execute the coup plotters and even paying their salaries while in detention was one reason that began to polarize the military. Then he enacted the unification decree that changed the system of government from federal to unitary. Consequently, upon this, on July 29, 1966, barely 7 months after the first coup, young military officers of northern extraction assassinated General Ironsi in a bloody coup that ushered in the second military administration with Yakubu Gowon. His administration is fondly remembered for two things: the civil war and corruption, representing its success and failure respectively. Gowon has succeeded in suppressing the secessionist attempt of the eastern region after 30 months of civil war. It's July 1967 to January 1969. Under his watch, corruption flourished on a scale almost impossible to imagine. However, shortly after his regime, the situation did not remain the same again. Corruption remains flourishing, and secessionist attempt of the eastern region does not stop at the present time. It was therefore good news to all and sundry when the military announced coup of the 29th of July 1975 brought in a new head of state, General Muhammad Buhari. Several commissions of inquiries were set up by the Murtala administration, which subsequently indicted the public officers of the previous administration. With such standing success being recorded in fierce fight against corruption, corruption fought back, and the chief crusader, Murtala, was made to pay for his life in a bloody coup attempt on January 12, 1976. The coup failed, however. The plotters, Lieutenant Colonel Bukar Dimka, and others were eventually executed. Murtala's administration, having been carried on by his next in command, General Olusegun Obasanjo, went on to fulfill his promise of conducting elections and returning power to civilians. The Second Republic in 1979 was claimed that over $16 billion in oil revenue were lost between 1979 and 1983 during the reign of President Shehu Shagari Ogbeide 2012. Shagari was toppled on the 31st of December 1983, just 3 months into his second term. General Muhammad Buhari led a popular coup to rescue the economy from the grips of corrupt politicians of the Second Republic. The military administration led by General Muhammad Buhari set up panels of inquiry to investigate the shady dealings of the Second Republic public officers. This led to the arrest and trial of many of them, most of whom were found guilty, were made to forfeit looted funds and punished with imprisonment ranging from 100 to 340 years terms, having been found too unscrupulous to hold any public office again. The second phase of military administration, the Buhari administration that demonstrated the will and commitment to fighting corruption, lasted for barely 2 years. It was under the pretense and the seeming stagnations of the country's economy that it was toppled on the 27th of August 1985 in a bloodless coup that brought General Ibrahim Babangida as the head of the Supreme Military Council. Babangida administration had undeniable achievement and shortfall. The former include the actualization of Murtala Obasanjo's plan of relocating the federal capital from Lagos to Abuja in 1992 and the creation of many agencies to address the nation's pressing needs, such as the National Directorate of Employment, NDA, and the Federal Road Safety Corps, the latter manifest in massive corrupt practices and gross political instability. Babangida is believed to have taken the country to a step backward in his fight against corruption by institutionalizing it. He diverted 30% of oil revenue to frivolous uses and mismanaged a $12.4 billion windfall of oil profit during the Gulf War without accountability. Babangida introduced culture of settlement where oppositions were bought off with state money or government positions, allow him and his associates to plunder the nation. He practiced nepotism and tribalism in recruitment, appointment, and promotion, further entrenching corruption in the system. Benson 2018. He abrogated the sentences against the public officers convicted by his predecessors and reintegrated them into the public sector. 2022. By so doing, the everlasting lesson which General Buhari sought to teach the corrupt political class collapsed like a castle of sand. In furtherance of his transition program to return the country to civil rule, President Babangida oversaw the conduct of a presidential election held on June 12, 1993, which was widely adjudged to be free, fair, and most credible in the nation's history. But in a move that negated the legacy, epitomized the political instability being experienced, and subsequently consumed his administration. He announced the annulment of the election of the apparent winner, the Social Democratic Party, SDP, flag bearer, Moshood Abiola. The annulment of the election kindled a ravaging fire that was to consume his administration. Unlike any of his predecessors or successors, Babangida did not relinquish power through death, coup, or transition. Instead, in what will be his political dribbles, such that earned him the iconic title Maradona. He handed over to an interim national president on August 27, 1993, exactly 8 years since he ascended to power. Given the massive storm the interim president, Chief Ernest Shoneka, had met, he was incapable of steadying the sinking ship. He had barely gathered any momentum before he was ousted by General Sani Abacha on November 17, 1993. He also did not pretend to be an open war with corruption. Indeed, corruption had a free reign in Abacha's government, and General Abacha himself became an epitome of corruption. It was also reported that the amount of money stolen by late Sani Abacha and his cronies, which have been repatriated to Nigeria by the United States, has hit over $334.7 million, local 2022. The sudden unexpected death of Abacha on June 8, 1988 paved way for General Absalam Abubakar to take power. Abubakar's administration had one cardinal objective: transition to democratic governance, and he achieved that by overseeing the drafting of the new constitution, the conduct of an election, and a successful handover on the 29th of May, 1999, thereby bringing the second and so far the last place of military administration to an end. Abubakar is now held in high esteem owing to his legacy of returning the country to civil rule in less than a year of his accession to power. However, despite recovering some allegedly looted funds and properties from some cronies of late Abacha, he was not regarded as an anti-corruption crusader, nor was his administration regarded as one that demonstrated a better leadership than the previous military regime. The Third Republic was sandwiched between the 13 years military rule of General Babangida and Sani Abacha 1985 to 1988. During this period, the number of commissions of inquiries were instituted, yet no inquiry and reports stop the high rate of corruption. The Fourth Republic is the longest in the nation's history, being the only republic to last more than 6 years. It started with the swearing in of Chief Olusegun Obasanjo as the executive president of the country amidst two perceived anomalies. Accordingly, Obasanjo declares zero tolerance to and a fight against corruption. Beyond words, he established anti-graft agencies, the Independent Corruption and Other Practice Commission, ICPC, and the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, in 2000 and 2003, respectively. According to him, our vowed zero tolerance for the scourge of corruption derives from our conviction that countering corruption and promoting public integrity are critical to economic rebirth and sustained development. The implication is that we have no choice but to change our ways. The point September 6, year 2005, quoted in Igrimadu 2012. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, the corruptions and impunity that permitted the public sectors throughout the 8 years of Obasanjo's presidency negated the prospect of achieving any meaningful developmental progress. And the situation was not helped by seeming involvement in, or at least tolerance of the act. For example, being not only the president but also the minister of the Petroleum Ministry, he did not hold anyone responsible for the failure of the time-around maintenance and repairs of refineries, despite awarding for that cause a staggering $400 million contract. As Adekeye further revealed, when an audit report indicted 10 ministry of $23 billion naira misappropriation, it was the auditor rather than the minister who got sacked. Adekeye 2003. What would sum up the leadership of Obasanjo was the transitional election he conducted in year 2007. The primary beneficiary of the election, Alhaji Umaru Yar'Adua, was honest enough to admit that the election had some shortcomings. President Yar'Adua did not just admit that the 2007 election was flawed, but also promised electoral reform, which he backed with prompt action. He has said the grants for the introduction of permanent voters card and smart card reader for the verification of voters, which enhance the credibility and subsequent elections by reducing multiple voting and impersonation, Kasim 2019, publicly declaring his asset, becoming the first ever Nigerian leader to do so. But he did not live long enough to give the 7-point agenda a shot, as he died on the 5th of May, 2009, after a protracted illness. After Yar'Adua's death, his deputy, Dr. Kunle Jonathan, completed his tenure and served for another 4 years tenure after winning the 2011 election, but failed in a similar bid in 2015 election. Many have attributed his defeat in the 2015 poll to the public sector corruption that characterized his administration, which exacerbated social ills like poverty and insecurity. He was infamous for treating corruption cases with kid's glove. For example, under his watch, the then CBN Governor Lamido Sanusi declared $20 billion was missing from the Federation account, Vanguard 2014, whose sum of money and properties worth billions of naira were later seized from some of his cabinet members charged by the next administration. As the case was in 1999, on May 29, 2015, Nigeria got served another old wine in a new bottle. The 72-year-old retired General Muhammad Buhari, who said Shagari in 1983, came on board as a converted Democrat. Nigeria have chosen to replace the relatively younger Jonathan with him at his first time of asking, having lost the 2003, 2007, and 2011 elections. The masses had yearned for a change from the corrupt administration of Jonathan and Buhari, rode on that mantra to ascend to the throne. While pledging to move the country forward in his inaugural speech, Buhari boldly declared that corruption, the greatest single bane of our society today, will be tackled head-on at all levels. No society can achieve anything nearer to its potential if it allows corruption to become the full-blown cancer it has become in Nigeria. Akinwale, 2017. This statement strengthened the masses' belief on his no-nonsense leadership posture as exemplified in the war against indiscipline of his military administration. It was, as many believe, exactly why corrupt allies who conspired to oust him in 1984 also connived to ensure his failure to win election in his 3 previous attempts. President Buhari declared anti-corruption crusade as one of the cardinal objectives of his administration. In pursuance of the objectives, he introduced some anti-corruption measures, which included the Code of Conduct Bureau, Nigeria Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, Treasury Single Account, Integrated Personnel Payroll and Information System IPPIS, and Whistleblowing Policy, APAN and 2016. The FCC, alongside the Department of the State Services, DSS, were at the driving seat of the crusade. To avoid losing focus in fighting the already manifested case of corruption, Buhari decided not to dig too deep into the past corrupt cases, and so he made his cabinet members of Jonathan's administration his only target. Accordingly, high-profile arrest and prosecution of those public officers were made as shown in Table 4. According to the EFCC, from the many prosecutions and convictions in year 2017, it has recorded 473 billion naira and $98 million reached 2018, and in 2019, 2021, and 2022, the EFCC said it secured 1,280, 2,220, and 3,085 convictions respectively, and recover assets worth billions of naira. Umeroha, 2023. One of such sagas involved the former ministers of petroleum, Diasani Alison Madwiki, from whom more than $500 million worth of stolen cash, properties, and other valuables were confiscated. Correct, 2019. Furthermore, many public officers affiliated to the Buhari administration or its political party that have been accused of involvement in various corrupt practices were left off the hook of prosecution or arrest altogether. Some of these sacred cows were the former group managing director of Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation, Andrew Yakubu, head of the National Intelligence Agency, Ayodele Oke, head of the National Health Insurance Scheme, Professor Usman Yusuf, and secretary to the federal government, Babasha Lawal, whose scandal generated uproar in the country by 2018. Few others, as Thompson et al. 2020 revealed, are Buhari's chief of staff, late Abakayari, Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, Executive Secretary, Border Communities Development Agency, Junad Abdullahi, and the former national chairman of the ruling party, Adam Oshiomole, who in public domain once said, "Come to our party, APC, and your sins will be forgiven." It is therefore safe to say that leadership in the Fourth Republic is here to elevate the country as expected. Despite lasting for over 2 decades, the achievements of the different administrations do not address most of the country's problems like insecurity, poverty, and unemployment. Even got worse. Corruption has played a big role in this as it did in the previous republic. Figure 3 shows Nigerian rulers from 1960 to today. Leadership. Leadership as a process means that it is a transactional event that happens between leaders and their followers. Leadership is about directing a group of people towards the achievement of a task or reaching of an end point through various ethically based means. Leadership is an essential for all government and governance. Weak leadership contributes to government failure, and strong leadership is indispensable if the government is to succeed. Odewale and Benson, 2016. However, leadership and rulership, though these can be interconnected in complex ways. For instance, both leaders and rulers have influence over others, shaping decisions and outcomes. Both have power imbalances, where one individual or group holds more authority than others. In the area of decision making, both rulers and leaders make decisions that impact others, often with significant consequences. Leader the more authority from the ability to inspire, motivate, and empower others, while rulers often depends on form, position, cohesion, or tradition. Leadership can morph into rulership when they become too powerful or disconnected from their constituents. They may start to patronize their own interests over the greater goals. Rulership can masquerade as leadership. Some rulers can use their charisma or propaganda to present themselves as leaders, while still maintaining authority and control. In a nutshell, while leadership and rulership share some similarities, the differences lies in their underlying value, approaches, and purposes. Effective governance requires a balance between leadership and accountability, ensuring that power is exercised responsibly and in best interest of all development. The World Bank report of 1991 emphasized better education, higher standard of health and nutrition, less poverty, a cleaner environment, more equalities of opportunity, greater individual freedom, and a richer cultural life are all tools of economic development. Tudaro, year 2008, in its tool of analysis of economic development, emphasized reorganization and reorientation of the entire economic and social systems, radical changes in institutional, social, administrative structures, and change in popular attitudes, customs, and beliefs. Therefore, one could conveniently refer to development in multidimensional terms. Development is both a physical reality and the state of mind in which society has through some combinations of social, economic, institutional process, and the means of obtaining a better life. Benson, 2010, Lamidi, Benson, and Adisa, 2018. Figure 4. This represents a typical example of gap in Nigerian public infrastructure with crumbling road services, aging vehicles, power plant transmission lines, and distribution networks. The resultant effects is economic losses and decreased quality of life, and reduced access to essential services and negative impact on public health. Figure 5 shows a relative supply of electricity in the country. Conceptualizing national development. The concept of national development encompasses economic growth, social progress, political stability, infrastructural development, and human development. The challenges to national development include poverty, corruption, political instability, environmental and infrastructural degradation. Because this shows Nigeria infrastructural crisis, as well as figure 7 showing abandoned projects left after collecting huge money for them. Effect of leadership crisis and corruption on socio-economic development in Nigeria. Leadership crisis and corruption are the cog in the wheel of Nigeria's economy that is said to experience growth without development. Unjoku, year 2007, captured the rate of moral decadence in Nigeria so vividly when he submitted that everything about Nigeria is corrupt. He went further to discuss the devastating consequences of corruption, which he says is worse than HIV, nuclear bombs, armed robbery, and terrorism combined together. The World Population Data Sheet 2005 showed that 91% of Nigerian population live below $2 per day. In a later research, you say 2006 reported that close to 60% of the Nigerians live in extreme poverty. In year 2014, World Bank Director for Nigeria, Marinelli, said 100 million Nigerians were living in poverty. In the same year, the bank president, Dr. Kim, rated the countries among the world's extremely poor country. The poverty rating for Nigeria came to a climax in year 2018 when she was declared the poverty capital of the whole world. CNN, through our reporter, Bukola Adebayo, reported on June 26, 2018, that Nigeria has overtaken India as the country with the largest number of people living in extreme poverty, with an estimated 87 million Nigerians, or around half of the country's population, thought to be living on less than $1.90 a day. The findings based on the projection by the World Poverty Clock and compiled by Brookings Institute show that more than 643 million people across the world live in extreme poverty, with African accounting for about 2/3 of the total number. This indicates the inability of the successive Nigerian leadership to mobilize resources and transform these resources into a meaningful output for the benefit of the citizens. Research suggests that the unemployed youth are disproportionately more likely to be perpetrators as well as victims of political crisis and violent situations. Ajaibu 2012. The growing gap between the rich and the poor affects society through increased crisis in the polity. Oloman Jobi 2015 contains the leadership failure in Nigeria, particularly in the northeast and south-south of the country, were responsible for the advent of the Boko Haram terrorist group and militancy, respectively, as well as political crisis across the divide. The Ghana shows leadership in action. Mr. President, Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, the mismanagement, misapplication, and misappropriation of the vast oil wealth and resources are exemplified by the oil wind between 2009 and 2014, and the unabated abuse of public offices by public officers have resulted to various degrees of crisis, such as IPOP, Niger Delta Force, Niger Delta Avengers, Middle Belt Front, and the likes. Harrison, year 2000. Nigerian leaders lack patriotism. In this wise, Okwesi, year 2000, believes strongly that leadership is a sacrifice for service, but it is not so in Nigerian society today. For him, Nigerian leaders of today are those who expect the led to serve them and make sacrifices to make them remain comfort. He continues to see Nigeria as a society where the president would rather pay millions of naira to procure a new presidential jet and repair dilapidated roads that have become death traps for the land. For him, it is a society where the legislature prefer to be paid millions of naira as furniture allowance rather than insist on the provision of shelter of any kind for the led. The led are told to be patient and make sacrifices to enable the leader travel in the comfort of the world's latest presidential jet. He noted that this is a society where a governor refuses to give his people drinkable water only because he is amassing wealth for his campaign for a second tenure in office. The legislature likes to be settled rather than have certain social amenities located amongst the people it represents. What kind of nation is ours? Consequences of the rulers, the road corruption, and leadership on national development. The rulers. The consequences of rulers on nations' development can be significant depending on their leadership style, policies, and priorities. Some notable rulers and their contribution to national development. Yakubu Gowon led the country through the Civil War and its aftermath, creating 12 states and establishing the National Youth Service Corps. He played a critical role in shaping Nigerians' early years. Obasanjo Olusegun implemented various corrupt reforms, including the Operation Feed the Nation program, and hosted Festa 77, a major cultural event. He also introduced universal primary education and established the Joint Admission Matriculation Board, JAMB. Others like Herbert Macaulay, Mohammed Buhari, Nnamdi Azikiwe, Goodluck Jonathan, and Bola Ahmed Tinubu all contributed positively to national development. Corruption. Corruption has severe consequences on national development, affecting various aspects of a country's growth and prosperity. Overall, corruption has far-reaching consequences that can undermine a country's development, stability, and prosperity. Addressing corruption requires a comprehensive approach that involves strengthening institutions, promoting transparency and accountability, and empowering citizens. Leadership. Leadership has a profound impact on national development. Ultimately, effective leadership is crucial to driving nations' development, promoting prosperity, and ensuring the well-being of citizens. Some notable leaders and their contribution to national development. Chief Obafemi Awolowo was a pronounced politician who made significant contribution to the country's development. Here are some of his notable achievements. He conceptualized the idea of establishing the University of Ife by the regional government of Western Nigeria led by Samuel Ladoke Akintola. The university was named Obafemi Awolowo University later in 1987 in honor of late Chief Obafemi Awolowo as the first premier of the Western region of Nigeria. Here we are today. Awolowo's contributions had a lasting impact on Nigeria's development, particularly in education, infrastructure, and economic growth. His legacy continues to inspire and influence Nigerians' politics and society. Others like Akinwumi Adesina, Peter Obi, Atiku Abubakar, and Rotimi Amaechi contributed positively to national development. Concluding remarks, research, and community service. Now, Vice Chancellor, sir, we have traversed quite a territory interrogating how leadership and rulers' activities in Nigeria have influenced the country's development challenges across sectors and political divisions of the country. Vis-a-vis the harmful outcome of poor leadership, corrupt practices on governance, public utilities, resources, and how they affect development in the social, economic, institutional, and political realm. These will be addressed under the policy recommendation. The way forward policy recommendation. Corruption has eaten deep into the fabric of the Nigerian nation. Some public officers are generally known to engage in large-scale corruption, mismanagement, and embezzlement of public funds. The various anti-corruption agencies have put in place recorded a remarkable success in curbing these menace in the country. The problem of leadership cannot be overstated, as it could be argued that the success of any institution and organization hinges on the quality of its leadership. In line with this order and Usman 2012 have identified qualities of a good leader, which include integrity, humility, intelligence, knowledge, human sympathy, decisiveness, motivation, and desire for achievement, honesty, and discipline. There is lack of patriotism on the part of several people at all levels of government in Nigeria today. People are mass wet and say there is immortality of the soul. Very few Nigerians are so affluent, while the majority of the masses are wallowing in abject poverty. The rich are becoming richer, while the poor are becoming poorer. One would like to ask, where is the boat of Nigeria heading to? There is no doubt that there is an inequitable of wealth and resource distribution in Nigeria. What obtains is survival of the fittest. The rich does not want the poor to share from the rich ill-gotten wealth. It is a high time people of Nigeria jettison their selfish desire and by the culture of patriotism about their fatherland. The general belief is that whatever belongs to government belongs to nobody. We need to change our attitude to the way we handle government businesses in Nigeria. Social services delivery at all levels of government should be those that impart on the people directly. I admonish the Nigerian people to discharge their duties and responsibilities wholeheartedly and without fear of evil, to transact official business as if it is their own, be patriotic in their dealings with their fellow human beings, and encourage others to imbibe the spirit of patriotism in all their day-to-day activities, in order to have an enviable Nigeria today. Recommendation. Payment of salaries as at when due is recommended to address the incidence of loss of self-esteem and corruption among officers. Leaders must design policies that reflect the need of the rule. Public trust, which is essential for the stability and effective service delivery, must be ensured. Strengthening collaboration with international bodies to recover stolen assets slashed abroad and ensure compliance with global standards like United Nations Convention Against Corruption. Sir Vice Chancellor, sir, I have not only contributed to academic knowledge, I have also assisted in building human capacity. I have successfully supervised more than 80 MPA, MBA, and DPA candidates, as well as over 30 MSc candidates. I have also successfully supervised 10 PhD candidates. Some of them are lecturers in the University of Obafemi University, and one of them is a professor at Federal University of Ekiti. Some of them are in the United States of America, the United Kingdom, and South Africa, propagating the seed of public administration. Another one is the permanent secretary in one of the ministries in Ondo State. I have served as an external examiner to the Olabisi Onabanjo University at Gowe, University of Ilorin, Federal University of Ekiti, Adeleke University, Ede, National Open University, Abuja, Elizabeth University, Laramokin, Joseph Ayo Babalola University, Ikeji, Wesley University of Science and Technology, Ondo, and a host of other institutions. I'm a consultant to the Ekiti State government on promotion of senior officers in the state public service. I've been actively involved in the promotion of senior officers to various offices in the state public service, such as permanent secretaries, directors, head of local government service, executive secretaries, clerk of the house, and head of service. I am the immediate past president of Ikoro Progressive Association, including North American branch, and member of Ekiti State Town Union. I'm also a fellow Chartered Institute of Government and Public Administrators in Nigeria, fellow Nigerian Association for Public Administration and Management. I have served the university in various capacities. I have served the university, this includes membership of Faculty Board of Administration, Vice Dean, Faculty of Administration, Acting Head, Department of Public Administration, member, University Congregation, member, University Security Committee representing the congregation. I have served as internal assessor to various faculties. Others include member, Faculty of Administration Postgraduate Committee, member, Faculty of Administration Review Panel, chairman, Faculty of Administration Journal Accreditation, business editor, Quarterly Journal of Administration, faculty representative of Senate, Dean, faculty representative of Administration in the meetings of a Social Science Board, and representative of the Dean, Faculty of Administration in the Faculty of Education Board meeting, appreciation and acknowledgement. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, permit me to conclude this lecture by appreciating all those who have come in one way or the other, contributing to what I am today, especially my academic career. I give glory to the Almighty God for making me what I am today. He has been all in all to me, and I'm therefore very grateful. I send my deepest appreciation to the Vice Chancellor, Professor Adebayo Bamires, for promoting me a Professor of Public Administration within the first few months of assuming office. I also thank him so much for availing me the opportunity to join the esteemed list of professors to deliver inaugural lecture and approving today's date. My appreciation also goes to the Obafemi Awolowo University Ife for giving me the opportunity and the additional support to train, develop, and grow to this peak of my career as Professor of Public Administration. I am very grateful to my parents, both of blessed memory, Chief Michael Atikwe Benson and Chief Madam Juliana Omokwemile Benson, for laying the foundation of my education at an early age. When some of my colleagues or mates were asked to work on their parents' farm, I am eternally grateful to have them all. I thank my siblings, Pastor Babatunde Benson, Ejina Bankole Benson, Mrs. Eunice Timidayo Omotosho, Mrs. Benson Olabinpe, and Dr. Mrs. Benson Elizabeth, both of blessed memory, and others. I also thank Dr. Adewale Rotimi of blessed memory and his wife, Mrs. Rotimi Victoria Abimbola, who brought me to Ile-Ife. So also Professor Labisi Ainan and Bayo Rotimi, I am grateful to them. Furthermore, in the course of my academic career, I have come across prodigious scholars and mentors with whom I hone my knowledge in the quest for the great adventure of teaching and research, and from those fountains of knowledge, my own learning has been refreshed. Such individuals include Professor Bamidele Ayo, E.J. Herrero, both of blessed memory, Taiwo Olufemi Ashaolu, M.L. Nasa, and late Barrister Amaleke. I thank every individual who has contributed differently or indirectly to my education and the success that I have been able to record so far. My close encounter with Professor Matthew Olu Okotoni scholarly works actually fired my academic interest. He supervised my MSc and PhD thesis in public administration. This brought me under his tutelage and mentorship over the years. I have benefited tremendously from his scholarship and wealth of experience. Today, Professor Olu Okotoni is seated here, not retired, not tired, but hale and hearty. I want to sincerely thank all my colleagues in the department, Professor Oladoni Adeshopo, Fayemi Awodele Ogbogu, Olaiya Pupola, and other esteemed colleagues in the Department of Public Administration, Doctors Asan Sakwere Agbola Ayeni, Akweloko, Alamu, Bello, Ibukwe, and Shambade, with whom I have opportunity to work with in the Department of Public Administration. All the academic and non-academic staff of the faculty are gratefully acknowledged for their support. The committee that facilitated the logistics of this inaugural lecture, coordinated by Dr. Sakwere Akweloko, Alamu, Bello, Ibukwe, Shinyambade, Lamidi, Egbewole, Bankole, Taliat, Ashere, Sule, Lamisi, Fatoke, and Abatan are highly appreciated for the good work. My gratitude also go to my in-law from Malaysia, Pastor John Ayola, and late Pastor Mrs. Olushola Ayola and family. God bless them. To all my academic children, especially my past and present students, PhD, MSc, MPA, DPA, and my undergraduate students, I say a big thanks to them. To my spiritual constituency, I want to appreciate the General Overseer, Apostle Oladele Abiodun, and the entire family of Overcomers Evangelical Mission International, Orioke Ashegun. All my spiritual friends are all appreciated. I own a deep sense of appreciation to my loving and caring wife, Dr. Mrs. Olushola Benson, for providing support and a conducive home environment for my scholarly engagement, and for being there always. She has constantly been on my neck on when I will deliver the inaugural lecture. Thank God, today is a reality. I thank my children for their incredible support. I love you all, and may the Lord keep you and bless the work of your hands in Jesus' name. Amen. The final word. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, ladies and gentlemen, it was of note that the issues of rulers and the ruled go beyond mere titles. It reflects the core dynamics of power, control, and legitimacy in every society. Whether in monarchies, democracies, or dictatorship, the relationship between those who lead and those who are led determine the quality of governance, the degree of justice, and the prosperity of a nation. For modern governance to be effective, there must be a balance between authority and accountability, and a deliberate effort to ensure that the ruled are not just passive subjects, but active participants in shaping their own future. Rulers is when you have authority over an environment. However, leadership is when you have influence over people. Most people seek rulership while neglecting to pursue leadership. Being in a position of leadership and not rulership can be extremely frustrating. Imagine having the influence to inspire people to be righteous and corrupt-free, but not having the authority to enforce it. Imagine having the influence to inspire the youth to attend university, but not having the authority to enforce it. This can be frustrating. In Genesis 1:26, God said, "Let us make human beings in our image and likeness, and let them rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the tame animals, over all the earth, and over all the small crawling animals on the earth." While Genesis 2:19 says, "From the ground God formed every wild animal and every bird in the sky, and he brought them to man, so the man could name them. Whatever the man called each living thing, that became his name." In both scripture, God gave Adam the authority to rule and the influence to lead. In order to be effective in your purpose and in your life, you need to be positioned with the authority to rule and with the influence to lead. God did not give one without the other. Note this: you cannot empower the people if you are not an effective leader. You cannot change the culture of an environment if you are not the ruler. You need to be a leader and a ruler. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, ladies and gentlemen, I am done. Thank you all for coming and for listening.
Thank you very much. This is the moment for certificate presentation. Obafemi University, Ile-Ife. Certificate of presentation of inaugural lecture. This satisfies that Kunle Sehinde Benson, a professor of public administration, Department of Public Administration, Faculty of Administration, Obafemi University, Ile-Ife, Nigeria, delivered the 401st inaugural lecture titled "The Rulers, the Ruled, Corruption, Leadership, and the Consequences for Nations' Development." On this day, July 8, 2025. Congratulations.